Hello, this is the 5th chapter of John Masefield's The Box of Delights. He was just wondering whether he should hide the box in his secret locker, when he remembered that Abner had told the rat to report to him at 11 at the usual place. I wonder, Kay thought, if I could possibly be present when he reports. He took the box of delights in his hand and muttered, "If I push this to the right, I can go small, and if I push it to the left, I can go swift." He pushed the knob to the right and instantly found himself dwindling and dwindling, while the furniture in his room grew vaster and vaster. And there beside him, just beyond the edge of the carpet, was a little hole between two boards in the flooring. A mouse had once lived in the hole, but had long since gone, and once Kay had dropped a sixpence there, and had fished for it in vain with a bootlace smeared with cobbler's wax. He could see it shining there still now. Without any hesitation he slipped himself down the crack and picked up the sixpence, which was now bigger than his head, much too big to go into any of his pockets. The wonderful thing was that down there, where the mouse had lived, was a most charming corridor, all as bright as day. It ran on and opened into a great space, which had once been, as Kay knew, a secret hiding place made by his great-grandfather. This was now laid out as a mouse's recreation ground. There was a little tennis court and a charming bowling green, and a little tiny red pole hung about with ropes for the giant's stride. Then, in one corner, a part had been specially polished, and a mouse was roller skating there. "Hello, Kay," the mouse said. "I say," Kay said, "you know these underground places? Could I get to the Prince Rupert's Arms underground?" "Why, yes," the mouse said. "But of course it's a bit of what you might call a peradventure, getting into the Rupert's Arms. Parts of the way there are some very terrible fellows that lie in wait." "Do you mean cats and dogs?" Kay asked. "Oh, no," said the mouse, "but a party that has only come here lately. Of course," he said, sinking his voice, "I don't say anything against them. They're awfully nice fellows and good citizens and all that. But they've been getting away a lot. They've got foreign ways that take some getting into." "But who are they?" Kay said. "The chap who used to be cellarman here," the mouse said. "I won't mention names. He went away. He said he went as a marine cellarman. But if you ask me, he was on the Spanish Main under the Skull and Crossbones. But come along, Kay. I can fit you out with weapons." He led Kay along a little passage and unlocked a door labelled Armoury. Inside the armoury were some little light suits of chain mail. The mouse pitched one over to Kay and took one for himself. "You see, these will do for the body," the mouse said. "That is, they will do up to a point. I expect you'd like a sword or something." He opened a cupboard in which there were some long shining rapiers made out of bodkins and darning needles. Someone had put them to a whetstone and had given them edge and point. "You see, these are very good," the mouse said, "if you have time to use them. But the things that go for us are so sudden. And remember, when I put my finger to my lips, that'll mean that we are at the danger point." "Tell me before we start," Kay said, "what is the danger point?" "Well," the mouse said, sinking his voice. "Oh, yeah, excuse me. mouse said, sinking his voice. "When that one whom we named came home from the Spanish Main, he did not come alone. No, he brought Benito's crew with him. The wolves of the Gulf, they call themselves, and they're all there, drinking rum and plotting devilry. They've brought a reign of terror into what we call the underworld. All terrible things go on every night." "Whereabouts are they usually?" Kay asked. "The worst place is about 2/3 of the way there," the mouse said. "In the old powdering cellar under William's Vintry. We shall have to go right past it." "Lead on, Macduff," Kay said. "If the worst comes to worst, take my hand, for I think we shall be able to diddle them." He thought that by pressing the knob on the box he might be able to go swift past any danger which they came. "Now the best way is this way," the mouse said. Presently they reached the end of the Seeking cellar. Kay saw the barrels of cider and perry which they made in the orchard every year. The mouse unlocked a little door out of the cellar and into the underground passage. Someone had started digging under the door here. There was a mass of earth and rock and a pile of pickaxes. "You'll see there," the mouse said. "Those pickaxes. Those wolves of the Gulf that I told you of were up here last night. They were going to break into Seekings. You can see how they dug. But then that one you named came up and said, 'I'll take you into Seekings by another way any time you like, but not yet,' he said. 'There are 2 cats in Seekings,' he said, 'which are just doomsday in fur. One of them is called Nibbins and the other is called Twiddles, and they both ought to have their heads sawn off. And my advice is, don't break into Seekings till we've poisoned both of them. That's what.'" "And did they decide anything?" Kay asked. The mouse began to tremble violently and turned quite white. "They did," the mouse said. "They're going to poison the cats. I heard the whole plan." "Well, what is it?" Kay said. "Forewarned is forearmed." "They said," the mouse said, "they said, first we'll catch the mouse when he comes along here, and then we'll bathe him good and rich in the ratsbane they put down for us. Then we'll make him run across the room, the 2 cats sleeping. Then the cats will pounce and eat him, and then they'll die. That's what they're going to do." "Well, we'll see about that," Kay said. "Oh, but Master Kay, the mouse said. "Don't tell them that I told you." "Come now," Kay said, "and don't be such a funk." The mouse led by all sorts of strange ways towards the Rupert's Arms, along corridors, down steps, across forgotten cellars, behind the skirting board, out into somebody's back stairs, down into another person's cellar, then along an old wall, and then downstairs and downstairs again into a very damp, chilly cellar, where the floor and walls gleamed with salt crystals and wept tears of moisture. "This is the powdering cellar," the mouse said. "It's here that we must look out." They stepped to one side from the powdering cellar and entered the thickness of the wall again. As they went out, they found that it was becoming much warmer, and presently it was hot. What makes it hot? Kay whispered. This is near the furnace of William's Vintry, the mouse whispered. And it's near here that they've got their quarters. As they turned a corner, a reek of strong tobacco filled the air. There came a noise of a chair being pushed back. Glasses were pounded, a drunken voice squealed with joy that old Rum Chops was going to sing. A mouse put a warning paw on Kay's arm. They're at it, there, just inside there, he whispered. Indeed, just beyond them, the light fell into the corridor from an open door. From within the door there came cheers, mocking remarks of good old Rum Chops, sick him, Rum Chops, and the pounding of hands upon a table. Then a coarse voice said, Pray silence now, gents, for the song. Kay and the mouse paused, while within the room a most unpleasant voice broke into song. The singer may have been a little drunk, for he sometimes forgot his words and often forgot his tune, but whenever this happened, the other members of the company cheered and pounded the table. These were the words of the song. We fly a banner all of black, with scarlet skulls and boneses, and every merchant man we take we send to Davy Jones's. Chorus, gents, please. And the company broke out into the chorus. And every merchant man we take we send to Davy Jones's. Sing diddle diddle doll. The singer went on with his song. To fetch out the gold of the hold, we take them, shake their shankses. Then over the side to take a dive, we make them walk their plankses. Chorus, gents, please. And the company shouted with drunken cheers and laughter. Then over the side to take a dive, we makes them walk their plankses. Sing diddle diddle doll. They were going on with this disgusting ditty, but the company seemed so overcome by the beauty of the words and the sentiments that they all pushed back their chairs and rose to their feet, snapped their clay pipes, and started to repeat the chorus. Quickly, while they sing, the mouse whispered, and they slipped past the open door. Kay glanced in. Oh, what a terrible scene was within. There, gathered round a table, lurching, shouting, swaying, and clutching at each other to keep their balance, were the wolves of the Gulf. All Benito's crew, whom the rat would have described as marine sailormen. On the table round which they lurched and carolled were the remnants of a ham bone without any dish and a big bowl of rum punch. As Kay glanced, one of the ruffians fell forward with his head into the bowl. He splashed the rum over his head, and another tried to set fire to him with a candle, but was too unsteady in his aim. All these men wore sea boots, rough red caps and red aprons. No words can describe the villainy of their faces, all bronze with tropical suns, purple with drink, scarlet with battle, and bloated from evil living. Sing diddle diddle doll, they cried. Then they drew their pistols and fired them at the ceiling, so that the plaster came down with a clatter. The mouse plucked Kay on along the corridor. They turned a corner. There, and on in front of them, at the passage end, Kay saw the familiar figure of Rat, with a younger marine sailorman. Kay and the mouse slipped back so as not to be seen. They heard Rat saying, "Nah, here we are at the door. Now, nephew, remember what it was I told you. Don't you be afraid of the gent. Speak out." "I ain't afraid of no gent," the Rat's nephew answered. "Well, that's what Rat said, and stooping down he knocked at a little door. "What you knock for?" the nephew asked. "To show respect to the great Abner Bran," the rat answered. Kay heard Abner's silky voice say, "Come in." Rat and his nephew passed into the room and shut the door behind them. "Are we in the Rupert's Arms?" Kay asked. "Yes, this is the Rupert's Arms," the mouse said. "If you will step up here, there is a place where you can see right into the room." He led Kay up a fallen wooden moulding to a ledge behind the panelling of the old room. There was a crack in the panelling through which Kay could see. There was Abner in a green silk quilted dressing gown, sitting at a table. Beside him was a rather stout, rosy-faced but stupid-looking man whom Kay took to be the man Joe. Opposite Joe was the foxy-faced man. Opposite Abner was a lady whose figure and bearing seemed familiar. She turned her head a moment to light a cigarette at a taper burning beside her, and Kay saw that it was indeed, as he had thought, one who had been his governess, Sylvia Daisy Pouncer, a witch. "Come in, Rat," Abner said. "Who have you got with you?" "I'll make so bold as to present my nephew, Master Abner," Rat said. "Make a reverence to the gentleman." "What's your nephew's name?" Abner asked. "Oh, he answers to any name," Rat said. "Alf, or Bert, or any name. He ain't earned a name better than one of those." "Now," Abner said, "what will you take, Rat?" "Well, since I've been Marine Cellarman," Rat said, "I can't stand the climate like what I used. I do like a drop of rum. Not because I like it, it's poison, but without it I can't stand the climate." "A drop of rum for Rat," Abner said. They gave Rat a tot of rum in a thimble. Rat wiped his lips with the back of his paw and said, "Happy days, gents," tossed it off and rubbed his chest. "That's the stuff," he said. "Poison. I can feel it doing me good all the way down. Now, Alf," the rat said, when he judged that he would not receive any more rum, "stand there and tell the gentleman what you seen last night." Alf Rat came forward and seemed much abashed at having to speak in company. Kay thought that he had seldom seen a more hardened young villain. He was pleased to see the brazen face now confused, the eyes downcast, sweat starting from the brow, the cheeks flushing and turning white by turns. "Speak up, Alf," Abner said. "What does he say, Rat?" "He says so many of you makes it worse than being tried, Mr. Abner," Rat said. "Well, speak for him," Abner said. "Honoured company," Rat said. "My nephew, Alf, would is here, and don't often stand in such company, went faithful to orders to the drop of dew. By Innery cockfarthings at the hour of 4:45 yesterday. He was told to keep an eye on one that you wot of, which was C.H., what keeps a dog a bee. Danger a dog, my nephew Alf was in, but he don't flinch for that. No, he bides
Looks. There is CH with dog B. Presently income two of what of a man with chains and a woman without chains. They talk of foreign talk. CH pulls out a box of things, which they look at. B says, the wolves have come very close. Yes, nephew Alf thinks they've come closer than you think.
Oh, I know all about this. You told me this last night,
Abner said testily.
They agreed that the only way not guarded was out by Arthur's camp, and that this CH could get away at dawn by Arthur's camp. Well, we waited for him at dawn at Arthur's camp and got him. Tell me, Alf, when those three broke up, was the box still in CH's possession?
In his pocket, Alf said.
It was in his pocket. This way he put it. He didn't slip it to either of the others? No, I didn't. They said, you keep it. He didn't hide it in the drop of dew? No,
Alf said.
He asked them if he should, but they said no. And now listen,
Abner said.
After this you followed this CH all the way to Seeking's house, never letting him out of your sight?
Never once out of his sight, the rat said.
Let your nephew answer for himself,
Abner said.
How close did you keep to him, Alf?
I kept him in my sight, Alf said.
In spite of the dog? Yes, sir. Could you see if he hid the box on his way, or before he left the drop of dew?
He had it in his pocket. He kept tapping his pocket to make sure it was there. All the way he tapped his pocket.
It was snowing hard. Did the snow get in your eyes? No, sir. You must have very odd eyes,
Abner growled.
And you're sure,
the man Joe said,
that on the way to Seeking's he met nobody to whom he could have given the box?
I'll take my oath on Emily he didn't, Alf said. Not a soul did we pass, it being all snow, such as I never. At this point there was a pause. Kay saw Rat nudge his nephew, then nudge again. At a third nudge, the nephew said,
What do you keep nudging me for?
Tell the gent what I told you to tell him, Rat said. There was another thing, and if you please, gent, that my nephew had to tell you.
What thing? What is it?
Abner asked. It was about that K. Arker, Master Abner, Rat said.
What about him?
Abner said.
Let your nephew speak for himself. What have you got to say about this K. Harker? Well, nothing much, sir,
the nephew said.
Except that he always did sawed off. What for?
Abner asked.
'Cause he's gonna have a dog give it him for Christmas,
the nephew said.
You infernal lout,
Abner said.
What do you mean, Rat, by bringing your nephew here to repeat your folly to me? Get out, the two of you. Get back to your sewer and have a bath. You've got to bring someone. 9. Show these dolts out as you go. No, not by the way they came. I won't have them listening behind the skirting board. Kick them both out the back door.
Joe and the foxy-faced man, who seemed to be 9, took the 2 rats out through the inn.
2 infernal fools,
Abner said.
They don't seem to have a very high opinion of your ancient pupil, my dear,
he said, turning to the lady.
I don't wonder,
Sylvia Daisy Pouncer said placidly.
He was a child for whom I had the utmost detestation and contempt. A thoroughly morbid, dreamy, idle muff with a low instinct for the turf, which will be his undoing later in life.
Well now,
Abner said,
the question resolves itself into this. What did that man do with the box when those fellows let him get past them at Seaton's house?
I felt too late, his wife replied, that we ought to have been there and not trusted it to those people. However, it's too late now to cry over the spilt milk.
It's not too late to make the spillers cry,
Abner said angrily.
Of all the blithering fools I have ever had to do with, Joe and those 2 are the most blithering. He got away right under their noses.
As for Carl,
Sylvia Pouncer Brown replied sweetly,
if he hid the box, he must have done 1 or 2 things. Either hidden it in one of the bookshelves in the study at Seaton's. There are old books there hardly ever disturbed. Or, possibly, in the old cupboard in the hall there, underneath the stairs. He did not go upstairs, that I know. I have been over to Seaton's in the last 20 minutes and talked to 2 of the little girls. They told me everything. Carl gave a marvellous conjuring performance and did not leave the library until the Tatchester choir interrupted the party. Then apparently he went into the hall, and from the hall he went out with the choir. Therefore, if he hid the box, it must have been in the library or in the hall.
Not necessarily, my brightness,
Abner said.
While the party was singing carols in the hall, he could have slipped upstairs and hidden the box there.
I grant he could have, my astuteness, Sylvia said, but the little girls said he didn't.
Whatever they said, my inspiration, the point will have to be eliminated as a matter of routine,
Abner said.
Besides, he may not have hidden it. He may have handed it to somebody. Who were there? These Jones children? And this boy, K. Harker, your ancient pupil? I think my ideal, and hope that you may agree, that he would not have trusted a treasure so great to any child whom he had not seen before that afternoon.
Then, well, there remains the guardian, Sylvia said, this Caroline Louisa.
A Carol would have regarded her as the mistress of the house, certainly,
Abner said,
and as a woman to be trusted. He must have been close to her in the hall. He could have handed it to her and whispered to her to keep it for him.
Your imagination is quite Shakespearean,
Sylvia Daisy said.
Therefore,
Abner said,
We shall have to take steps about Madame Caroline Louisa.
May a weak woman make a suggestion, Master like Abner? Sylvia said. Is it not more likely that he handed it to the bishop, the precentor, the archdeacon, or one of the canons? You see, he was really in luck. There he was, unexpectedly, in the midst of the most respectable company in the country, every one of which could be trusted to any amount.
It is only too likely, my Empress,
Abner said.
Those 3 fools have let us in for a perplexing time. Supposing the box is not hidden, and supposing he didn't give it to this Caroline Louisa, he'd have handed it probably to the bishop. Whichever of the cathedral staff had it would have called in all the others. He'd have called in the dean, the treasurer, the seneschal, and those other fellows in the cathedral, and they'd have put the box in the cathedral treasure vaults. And you know what kind of vaults those are. Guy Fawkes and his powder wouldn't get through those, as we know from a bit of experience. That's where the box is now, depend upon it.
My dear, his wife said, I think you look a little too much on the gloomy side of things. I do not doubt that in a normal season the bishop, or whoever it was, would have acted as you suggest. But this intertime normal season, at this time so near to Christmas time, the old cathedral staff is working overtime. Normal procedures are in abeyance. I think it very likely, my dear, that the bishop, or whoever it was, when he got over to the palace, or the deanery, or the canonry, he put the box into a drawer in his dressing table among his collars and handkerchiefs, and thought no more about it. Abner shook his head.
My priceless pearl, he said. My blue and my yellow sapphire, if I may call you so. I wish I could think it, but if Cole didn't hide it, he gave it to someone. That's sure. That's the first point to settle, and our routine will soon find out which.
Will you ask the boy? Sylvia asked, making a sign with her hand.
I can't wait till I get home, he answered. With luck we ought to know before then. Look here, Sylvia. I am tempted to get rid of Charles with his infernal what.
Oh no, my emerald, she said. He is one of our most precious workers. Get rid of Charles? Never. Whatever for?
He was in charge of Joe and the other, Abner said, especially charged to nobble and scrubble Cole. He knew that Cole had a Punch and Judy show. He let Cole go right past him with the goods on him, with his dog Toby in his pocket and the Punch and Judy show on his shoulder. Could a prize imbecile have been blinder or sillier, I ask you?
Ma Abner, Sylvia said, you are unjust to our Charles. Terrier. The terrier may have been in Cole's pocket. Many terriers are very small. No doubt the show was also folded up very tight and not to be seen. Of course it was. How unjust are you to blame poor Charles? You must never think of getting rid of Charles. I repeat, my emerald, never think of it. He did his duty well in a terrible night of storm and was deceived by a ruse. Get your routine to work by all means, but then get home and ask the boy.
The routine is all at work,
he said.
As to Charles, I shall follow my own judgment.
My topaz and diamond, Sylvia said. Your judgment is necessarily now mine. Can you not see that Charles is our only buffer against the stupidity and the craft of Joe? Can you not see that Charles is the only friend we have? But enough, my idol, you do see, I'll see you see. Now, as to this child, Maria Jones, whose ways you like, I admit she sounds most promising. Remember that Cole may have given her the box to her.
I remember that,
Abner said.
but even so, that would be a point in her favour. I think you'll agree that she would be an acquisition. She must be here with 9. Now, 9 and Charles. Shall I ring for them to bring her?
Do, my own Abby, Sylvia said. Kay saw Abner stretch out his left hand and press a button in the middle of the table. An electric bell rang somewhere below in the house. Almost immediately, the foxy-faced man and another curate whom Kay had never seen before entered with little Maria.
Ah, Miss Maria,
Abner said.
good morning. It was most kind of you to come over in answer to our message. Somebody was saying that you were very much interested in stained glass. We were making up a little party to go over to St. Griswold's this morning, lunching there, looking at the glass, and being back at Seekings before tea. Would you care to come along? Oh, by the way, you haven't been introduced. This lady is Mrs. Brown.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks very much, Maria said, nodding at Mrs. Brown. I'll be delighted. It's rather a mouldy lot of glass in it at St. Griswold's. In the main church, yes, the foxy-faced man said. Nothing a day earlier than the 15th century. But in the Lady Chapel there is some of the very best that ever was done. It's a pretty mouldy thing, English glass, if you ask me, Maria said. Well, I think you'll find that this isn't English glass, the foxy-faced man said. Well, my dear, Mrs. Brown said, before we start, would you like to run back to Seekins to get some fig wraps? No, I'll come as I am, Maria said. Thanks. Would you like to leave word, Mrs. Brown said, that you will be out until tea time? Oh no, Maria said, thanks. They know that I can look after myself. They won't bother about me. I've generally got a pistol or two on me, and I'm a dead shot with both hands.
How you must enjoy the quiet atmosphere of school,
Abner said. School, Maria said. They know better to try and get that game on me. I've been expelled from 3, and the headmistresses still swoon when they hear my name breathed. I'm Maria Jones, I am. Somewhat talked of in school circles if you take the trouble to inquire.
I count it a great honour,
Abner said,
to entertain so distinguished an ornament of her sex. Then we shall start, shall we? We will have a look at the glass in the morning light. We will get to the Bear's Paw at Tatchester for lunch. The place still famous for duck pâté. Then we will glance at the western window while it has the light behind it, and bring you safely back to Seekings in good time for tea.
They moved out from the room, Mrs. Brown with her hand on Maria's shoulder. Kay, crouched at the spy hole, tried to cry out, "Don't go with them, Maria! They're up to no good! They're the gang!" But being as tiny as he was, his voice made a little reedy squeak like the buzzing of a fly. "Back now," he said to the mouse. "Back now to Seekings as fast as ever we can go." At this instant, round the corner of the corridor in which they were, came a party of the wolves of the Gulf. They had been drinking more rum since Kay had passed them, and there they were, pot valiant, swinging lighted lanterns in their hands and brandishing cutlasses in their right. Kay heard one of them say, "There they all. There are their footsteps in the dust, two of them a mass and another, and we'll grind their bones to make bread." "Yes," said another. "It's the cold-blooded trick of it, coming past us when we were taking our ease round the bowl. We'll cut 'em in a little collops. There they are." "Where?" said another. "I'll eat their livers fried." "Up there," the first one said. "Up there, where they can't escape." "Come on there," they cried to Kay. "Come on, we'll mince you into collops and we'll eat your livers fried." Kay saw their gleaming teeth, their red eyes, and their flashing cutlass edges. "Give me your hand, mouse," he said. Quickly he caught the mouse's hand and with his other hand twiddled the knob on the magic box that he might go swiftly. And instantly the two of them were plucked up into the air, whirled past the wolves of the Gulf, back to Seekings. He dropped his weapons in the mouse's armoury, went back into his room and resumed his shape. "Kay," Susan was saying from the other side of the door, "do you know where Jemima is?" "No," he said. "What do you want Jemima for?" "Well," she said, "I was out in the streets buying Christmas presents and Maria went into a car with some total strangers at the Rupert's Arms. And she has gone off with them. And she knows she's absolutely forbidden to go into cars with total strangers." "What sort of car was it?" Peter asked. "Oh, it was a big, rather old, dark car. I didn't like the look of the strangers at all, although two of them were dressed like curates." "I expect that will be all right," Kay said. He did not think that it would be all right. He was very much worried. Kay did not know what to do. He wished that Caroline Louisa was there. As he went downstairs, Ellen met him. "Oh, Master Kay," she said. "I didn't hear you come in. There's been a message from your guardian. She'll be here tonight by the 8-7, she says. Why, you're all at Tatchester at the Punch and Judy show." "Oh, good, I am glad," he said. "Is her brother well, then?" "Much better," she said, Master Kay. "Oh, splendid." He called the others into the study and told them how Maria had gone with Abner and the gangsters. "She'll be all right," Peter said. "Maria can look after herself." "It is like Maria," Jemima said, "to go off, plunging off with any scoundrels who come along without a suggestion." "I say, it's rather sport," Susan said. "Supposing they say, 'Miss Maria Jones, you'll either join our gang or go down oubliette forever.'" "I pity any gangster who talks like that to Maria," Peter said. "Supposing she joins the gang," Susan said. "We might not see her again for years. Then presently, when we are all old and frightfully hard up, suddenly a mysterious lady covered with diamonds will drive up in a rose and say, 'I'm your long-lost sister Maria, come back, I'm the queen of the gang now, and all your troubles are at an end.'" "She'll be the queen of the gang, all right," Kay said, but he felt uneasy and wished he knew what to do.
He went round to the Rupert's Arms to speak to the proprietress, Mrs. Calamine. "Could you tell me, please, who the clergymen were who were here this morning?"
"Those, Master K," she said. "That was the Reverend Dr. Bottledale, with his wife and chaplain and private secretaries. He is the head of the missionary in the Theological Training College at Chester's in the Chester Hills."
"I thought he was named Mr. Brown."
"Oh, no, Master K. He is well known and a very holy man, and his lady, Mrs. Bottledale, oh, she does wear lovely jewels. And she reminds me of someone whom I've seen somewhere. It's always on the tip of my tongue." Oh.
Kay knew, but did not say. By this time a steady warm rain had set in from the west. Under it the snows were falling apart into water. All spouts and gutters streamed and gurgled. The snow heaped at the sides of the roads had turned to a dirty grey. As it was very wet, the children stayed indoors. After lunch, first they played work, then they played murder. Kay thought, "If Maria doesn't come back by dark, I'll go to the police about her. We shall have to start for Tatchester at 4:30. Somehow I don't think the inspector will be much help in the business." The darkness came before 4 o'clock that evening. Little Maria had not returned. Kay slipped round to the inspector of police and told him his story with his suspicions. "Have no fears, Master Kay," the inspector said. "The Reverend Dr. Bottledale is a pillar of the church and respectability. I've sung in the glee club with him time and again. A very sweet tenor, Master K. Now depend upon it, Master K, you have come home, if I may say so, a little faint from a strain of learning. Your nerves want food. I often notice in young fellows just back from school. Your young friend is in good hands, believe me. And as to her not being back in quite the time she said she'd be back, consider, Master K, the state of the roads, all swimming with sludge and filth, and the rain coming down on your windscreen so that you can't see a thing. She'll be back, you may be sure. Or wait one moment, Master K. Wasn't you to be tonight at the Punch and Judy show at Tatchester Palace? Yes, Kay said, I was. We were just going to start. And wasn't Miss Maria to be there? The inspector asked. Well then, you say she's been to St. Griswold's to look at that old glass. Why should she come back all the way to St. Inns if she's got to be in Tatchester again at 5:30? She's a young lady who knows what's what. She'll have stopped in Tatchester, depend upon it. Master K. Had tea there and gone on direct to the palace. You'll find her there when you get there. Hadn't thought of that, Kay said. Of course, that's very likely to have happened. Ah, the inspector said. We in the law, Master K, we've got a maxim. It's the easy explanation that never occurs. You think all battle, murder and sudden death and all the time it's only a tire getting a puncture. Or something equally simple. And we in the law, Master K, have another proverb. Never cross the water until you come to it. Time enough to think of making a bridge when you are at the water's brink. But until then, don't worry, Master K. And you get that good guardian of yours to see you take a strong posset every night. But you young folks in this generation, you don't know what a posset is. Well, a posset, said the inspector,
is a jorum of hot milk, and in that hot milk, Master K, you put an egg, and you put a spoonful of treacle, and you put a grating of nutmeg, and you stir 'em well up, and you get into bed, and then you take 'em down hot. Now pass it like that, taking overnight, you'll make a new man of you, Master K. While now you're all worn down with learning. Kay thanked him and hurried back to Seekings, where all the children were clamouring for him to hurry up or they would be late for the punching duty. It's all right, Kay said. We shall be in lots of time. It's not so much of a run to Tatchester. On the Roman road most of the way round. They got into the car, and in spite of the slush upon the roads, they were soon at Tatchester Palace, where the bishop and his sister gave them a royal tea. End chapter 5.